Good evening, guys, and happy Thursday to all of our sunshiny faces. If you guys noticed, I don't have a haul for you guys. That is because my dad actually had a couple of errands. Like, I think he had to take Jack for his football physical today, and even though he was home from work though, but he ended up taking Jack earlier in the day. And then he also had like a coaches meeting for football, I think, and he had some other meeting too. So he was sort of busy, and it was all afternoon stuff. Like, Jack didn't go. All of the other, like, the meetings were all after Jack's what's it called, physical, and he had that at, like, I don't know, it was like 1 o'clock, or I honestly want to say it was something like 2 or 3 maybe, I think, but it was like before Matthew got home, so maybe it was around 1 o'clock, somewhere, like I said, early afternoon. So he, like I said, and then had all those other things going on, so it was like we didn't, unless again we would have went really early today, we wouldn't have ended up going, like, having time to have gone to anywhere, because again too, like, my dad had the football meeting, and then he had his other meeting much later in the afternoon too, so it was like he was sort of like, he was like, oh, we can go at like 6 o'clock or something like that, I think. But like, it was gonna, like I said, sort of be somewhat later, and then we were gonna be squished in between two things, so I didn't want it to be like, oh, it's gonna take too long, and then us not being able to, like, go, or, you know, we have to hurry back or something like that. So we're just gonna go tomorrow, which is fine. Like, that's why we have Fridays available, because other than during football season, normally Fridays are always available. Even to, like, during football season though, like, Thursdays were sort of tough too, because like my dad would sometimes have the, not the varsity games, but the frost off games. I think every once in a while they sometimes had them on Thursdays, I want to say. But they also had, yeah, I think that was right. I don't remember though if it was the same last year, but there were a couple times where they had Thursday frost off games. So anyways though, I think it was maybe though just like the year before Jack started his freshman year, because I don't really remember there being a lot of games where it was on like a different night than when the varsity played, and they always play on Friday. So like I said, I don't entirely know, but maybe last year was different because Jack was on varsity last year. Like I said, I can't remember, but anyways, my dad's coaching at varsity though this year, so that's why he will be on the same schedule as Jack, so we don't have to worry about like, oh, my dad's coaching on a different night, like for a different game than when Jack's playing. So they'll be both, like, again, sort of busy on the same nights. So like I said, that's why football season's gonna be weird, because I don't know when we're gonna squeeze in our, like, Thursday night shopping, because that'll most likely, I think though, if they're doing things like they have in the past, it'll be a walkthrough on Thursday, kind of doing like a football team dinner or like a spaghetti dinner sort of thing, normally on Thursday nights. So I think they actually, and they do like a walkthrough sort of thing, so I actually think it's shorter, so I think that would work for us to still go to the grocery stores on Thursday. And we wouldn't be able to go on Fridays though, because again, that's when Jack's varsity football games are going to be. That's why we have the flexibility, but we sort of plan on Thursdays anyway, just as, you know, like in case of an emergency or, you know, situation that comes up like this, we can always just move it to the next day. So that's what we ended up doing today. But as I was talking to Jack today, actually, or he had mentioned something too, because my mom is going to like a work event thing on Saturday. Me and her are actually going. It's like a family thing. Well, not family, it's just open to the public, I guess. Not public, but like, you know what I mean? Like, whoever wants to, actually I think it sort of is open to the public. Anyways, she is going to go to that on Saturday. It's not this Saturday, it's the following Saturday. But she had asked Jack, oh, did you want to come? And then he was like, oh, well, like, school starts, like, you know, for me on that Monday, like, you know, so that weekend I'm going to be like, you know, kind of preparing to go back to school and stuff like that. I started thinking about that, and I was like, oh, like, you know, as they kept saying, like, summer feels like it's over, and I'm like, oh, like, as soon as we get into like the 4th of July, I always know like it's halfway, like it's almost over by that point. I really feel like Jack's starting school a little bit earlier, because normally we'd always start school on or sometimes we wouldn't even be back in school by my mom's birthday, which is, I think I told you guys, it's the 23rd, I believe, of August. So sometimes we would start like around that time, sometimes it wind up being after, but that's why it feels a little weird, like that Jack sort of still somewhat feels like he's starting somewhat earlier. Again, I don't know when I actually used to like start school, or you know, I'd have to go back and probably, I'm sure I posted about something. It's probably like, I can't believe I have to start school this week. And so like I said, I don't entirely know like when that was normal for me, but I remember too, like one year, I think it was the year I was going into 6th grade, there was a really bad thunderstorm, like a really bad, like almost like tornado on my mom's birthday, when, like I said, I was going into 6th grade and I wasn't in school yet, and I don't think that her birthday fell, I don't know exactly what day it fell on, but I know that like it wasn't, I almost want to say it was on a weekday, because I don't remember my dad being home during the day when like it had started. It wasn't until like the afternoon that he was finally home. So like I said, I don't really entirely remember it, but I remember making a cake for her, and then later the lights ended up going out, but like it didn't like last long enough for like school. Like I know school didn't start like the next day or anything like that, but like it started, like it was like a couple days like before school started. But again, my mom's birthday is like, again, late in August, and so again, I remember starting like late in August again. So I don't know, like it is weird, like some schools have started already, some are starting, you know, like probably way later on like the end of August. I had no clue honestly at all when Jack's school was starting. All I knew was for sure that this weekend Matthew was leaving to go back to school, and again too, I don't actually know when he starts school either. All I know is that he's going back, I think normally he always goes back a week early, which I feel like though he's going back 2 weeks early. But normally he'd always go back a week early to school, like to get things like prepared and settled and, you know, like sort of settle in and all that kind of stuff. And so like I said, I feel like he's actually starting 2 weeks early, or going back 2 weeks early. Like I feel like it was always like the weekend of my mom's birthday when school actually started. But again, I think that that makes sense, because then he'd be going back 2 weeks early. But Jack's school still seems like it sort of starts early, like I don't know. Anyway, so I had, like I said, no clue when it actually was starting, but then him mentioning that, like, I was like, oh wow, okay, like that's actually coming up, compared to sort of when I thought it was. So yeah, I guess it looks like summer is really sort of over now. Like, you know, I don't know, it just seems so weird. Like, you know, again, Jack really only has the rest of this week and then next week, and then he goes back to school, which also seems weird to me too, because like I'm thinking about it, I was like, okay, last year we went to St. Louis, and we went to St. Louis like this week, like it was, you know, pretty much like almost over last weekend that we ended up going a year ago. And I know Jack didn't start school like 2 weeks after that. Like I feel like it was still like, I don't know, maybe it was 2 weeks after that, you know, or like 2 weekends, but it felt like it like is a lot closer this year than it was like compared to last year. Like I didn't really either realize that we took that trip sort of so late in summer. Like it seemed like we took it sort of earlier in summer, because I still remember like a lot more, like doing a lot more like summer like things afterwards, and like I said, it just seemed sort of weird, I don't know. But I feel like too, we haven't done a whole ton of like summer like projects and things like that since the 4th of July, and like being outdoors and all that kind of stuff, except for today. I did wind up watering everything. I set up the sprinkler, which I do like having that new little sprinkler. It was a good use of $5 or whatever it cost, but the only thing is that it is tough to not have it like it. I need something that like hangs over the top, because I put it down on the ground, but like the leaves are so strong, and if you like put it like on the ground, the water that sprays out just winds up hitting the leaves, and so it doesn't actually like spread through the entire bed. So we had to like sort of, and like putting it outside of the bed, it didn't like, it just, if I had it on full, like on the highest, you know, like turn the hose all the way on, it'd spray right out of the beds. So then I was like, okay, I can turn it down and make it really like you know, small, but I can put it inside the bed then and then have, you know, it go over. And it wasn't, like I said, just finding the placement was sort of tough, like especially for some of the things. But then on the side where I have all the trellises, I just hung it over the trellises and it just sprayed like over into like the garden beds, which actually worked out really well. So I ended up doing that today because, like I said, it hadn't, at least that I know of, it didn't end up raining at all yesterday. And so we ended up, like I said, going out and watering that today, but I believe it's supposed to rain on Saturday, which stinks because that's our outside project day. So I don't think that we're going to be able to get to anything. But it was the exact same thing that happened last year too. It was like after 4th of July, after we ended up having like our 4th of July party, we sort of like stopped with everything. Like it either was really way too hot, or else it ended up being where like it was sort of like this, like raining somewhat, or again, we ended up having other stuff going on the weekend, so we didn't end up doing anything. So like again, compared to last year too, we sort of ended up stopping almost at the exact same time, or not quite getting as much done. So, and what's gonna stink though is that again, Jack's so this week he has like no football. Next week he starts like football, like, you know, the actual football for school and not just like the summer camp anymore. So they start, I think, like a week ahead of like when like football, like the school starts, which I think has almost always been that way, except for, like I said, in the case of where they do wind up starting much earlier, like, or too later, because I do remember too, there was one time where Matthew had a football game that they ended up playing and he hadn't actually started school yet, whereas all of the other schools that they were, you know, like playing and stuff like that, and that were in their like conference, they had all started school already. But Matthew's, because of, again, it was something to do with construction or something like that, they didn't actually get started yet, and so they had like a whole like week before, so they had like 2 weeks of football before their first game or something like that. But I think like it was like that Friday night was like the weekend before they actually started school. And Matthew was like, it's so weird to have like a football game and not have actually started school yet. Like I remember him saying that too. So like I said, sometimes they do wind up starting later, like again, comparing it to the football season. But a lot of times, again, they'll have a week or 2 weeks before school actually starts for like football. So again, Jack has football now starting next week. And then, like I said, he goes back to school the following week. So that's the only thing though that will be tough, is because I think they'll have football practices in the afternoon. So my dad will be gone pretty much all in the afternoon. And the thing that also does stink too is that because then my dad, you know, like works and then he goes to football practices afterwards, he's pretty much gone like all week. So anytime that he has to do anything else, he normally winds up getting caught up with on the weekends, and we don't have a lot of time to then do projects, and we only have Saturday to do those because then my mom is sleeping. We can't make a lot of noise because she works night shifts on the weekends. So again, it's this whole like now scheduling and stuff like that. And like football season in general too is just extra busy for us, as far as, again, like because Jack has, you know, football practice, and then again my dad winds up, you know, again coaching, so he's also busy. So like I said, there's a lot of, you know, like just schedule conflicting things and stuff like that going on during, again, like football season. So and just a lot more stuff going on too. And then like Friday nights too, because we are normally out at the football game so late, I am always like exhausted on Saturdays, because we wind up sitting through normally 2 football games. We'll go to the frost-off game and then the varsity game also. So we'll be there from like early afternoon to pretty much all night. Like sometimes the games don't end until 10 o'clock or later at night. So like I said, we can be gone for a really long time. That's what sort of stinks though, is that like now that football will be starting, it seems like, again, project wise too, we probably won't be really getting to a whole ton. And then too, like Jack isn't much help after like, you know, a full week of football practice and a game on Friday. He's normally exhausted too, so like we don't have him for help either on the weekends. And then again, Matthew's gone at school, so but just knowing that football's starting too is sort of like, it's sort of bittersweet, because I'm like, wow, like, you know, fall's approaching. But at the same time too, I'm like, yay, fall's approaching. But this summer seemed like it actually went by really quickly this year. I don't know why, but it just, like it just seemed like that. Like we didn't end up doing a whole ton. We didn't have a lot scheduled or planned either too. I feel like also it's a little bit of a different summer for us because we're learning to adjust again too to my mom's work schedule. So again too, whereas we might have been doing more things on the weekend and stuff like that, we haven't been able to because, and not just like, you know, project things and stuff like that, but too just like doing events and, you know, going and doing things or whatever. Again, Saturdays we pretty much have the whole day. Like if we wanted to do something, like again, go out to a movie, go and, you know, go to, again, some event, whatever we might be going to. But again, when we're learning to adjust to her schedule, like we don't have you know, like Sundays anymore to like do anything. So like I said, it's just, maybe that's why it felt like that, but I don't know, it just seemed really, really, really fast this year. And again too, it's not like summer, just when school starts again doesn't mean summer's over. It's still going to be hot. Garden's still going to need to be tending to. Again, projects can still get done. There's still weeds in the garden bed that need to be weeded, which I really need to get to because I honestly have not done hardly any of that at all this year. So like I said, I got to get to some of that, but there's, like I said, a lot of things that can still get done and in the hot weather. And normally August too for us is really one of the hottest months, and it's also sometimes one of the more dangerous months because it gets so hot, but we also get a lot of humidity and a lot of rain too, and with that comes thunderstorms and all that as well. And so it's also, so like I said, one of those like where we wind up with sometimes some severe weather, which is never fun. But anyways, I need to take a shower and get to bed. I will see you guys all in tomorrow's vlog. If you guys did enjoy today's, make sure you guys give a big old thumbs up. If you guys are new, we'd love if you'd subscribe, and I'll see y'all ever sunshiny faces tomorrow. So bye guys.